Hi guys, good evening and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I will be doing my episode review and recap for episode 8 of season 5 of Falling Skies on TNT. Of course, before I begin, first I have to sneeze. Excuse me. My apologies. Before I begin, I must warn you, of course, this episode review, as like all my episode reviews, will be full of massive spoilers. So if you're not caught up on Falling Skies, if you're behind on a couple episodes or whatever, do not continue watching or listening to this video, as I will be going into great depth as to what happened in the most recent episode. So you have been warned. That being said, damn, this got really dark. I mean, it opens with what looks like a firing squad gonna carry out execution orders on members of the Second Mass, but before anything can happen, it says 7 hours earlier. So we're right back where we left off. Tom and the rest of the Second Mass have been taken captive by the 14th Virginia Company, led by Weaver's ex-girlfriend, Katie Marshall. She's the commanding officer of the base there. Matt was able to escape, and thanks to Weaver, and Weaver told him to go get reinforcements and bring back Cochise and Dingon to get the Second Mass out of here while he stalls for time. Maggie and Isabella are also on the loose and have not been apprehended yet, fortunately. But Weaver, of course, is growing increasingly suspicious of Katie's behavior, and also because of the mark on her neck, the little cut there. He follows her outside of the camp to the woods, where sure enough, she was meeting with an Ashveni overlord. Shortly afterwards, Weaver kills it with his bare hands, with his belt buckle, actually strangles it to get to death. It turns out on the base that most of the men who are under her command, who are following her, aren't necessarily on the same page as she is in terms of like eliminating human collaborators, as she's calling it. And of course she's lecturing Weaver about people being under the influence and infiltrated by the Ashveni and all the tricks they can do and shit like that, even though she's no better because she is clearly under the influence of an Ashveni overlord, which Weaver already killed. And Weaver brings one of her sergeants out, Lieutenant Wolf out. He shows him what he killed, what he found meeting with Katie. And so they decide to test her reaction to see whose side she's really on, bring it back to camp and see what she does. And sure enough, she does something that's completely uncharacteristic of her, because Weaver and Wolf know her best, and the rest of the men want to continue to scour the woods for other overlords and aliens, but she insists no, and wants the body burned and leave it the way it was. But Weaver notes that something is off, and she insists that the execution of Tom, Hal, and Ben, and Anne, unfortunately. Anne has also been considered a captive, and she was working on the guy whose life she saved in the last episode. He actually turns out to be a traitor and calls her out. It's like, traitor, traitor, when she starts talking about her half human, half alien daughter, Lexi, when she's trying to tell him about all the good things that Hal and Matt and Ben and Tom, the Masons, have done for the Second Mass. He catches her off guard, gets her to confess that, Lexi was half alien, and so, of course, she's taken prisoner as well. Tom is trying to play like a game of emotional tag with Lieutenant Shelton, who's the guard watching over them. And, he's trying to plead with them that this isn't the right thing to do. They shouldn't be fighting each other. They should be fighting the enemy. And that Captain Marshall is out of her mind and completely paranoid and crazy. And she's not fit to lead. And, Shelton is also remarking how his best friend was considered a traitor and was executed as well. And then he and Tom start talking about how he had a family when all of this first started. He has never seen them again, ever. His two boys, his wife, and their family, like, he left them because he had to go off in light of the invasion. And he's never seen him again. And Tom really pulls at his heartstrings with it, to make sure that he makes a point saying all of the sacrifices, the people we've lost, will not be in vain and will not be for nothing. once we win this war, and we will win it. And you can tell Shelton and quite a few of the other soldiers are not on the same page with their commanding officer, Captain Marshall, who's most likely an Ashveni spy or something. And when Weaver tries to talk to her and try to understand why she's acting this way, or why she believes that Tom and the rest of the Second Mass are human collaborators, it's like she's completely lost her mind. She's like so convinced that they're the enemy and they're the ones who are under Ashveni control, not her. So I thought to myself, great, so how the hell are they going to get out of this? The commanding officer has all these men under her command, and she's under Ashveni influence, and the Ashveni overlord could have, it's dead, but she's still acting as an Ashveni agent, obviously. And we don't know what they're going to do next. Meanwhile, Maggie and Isabella, as awkward as it is, since they've both seen and are seeing Hal, well, Isabella more than Maggie, they're forced to work together to survive, to escape, and they keep arguing with each other about whether or not they should escape or free Tom and the rest of the Second Mass. Fortunately, they bump into Weaver. Weaver tells them that Matt is already coming back with a rescue team, and they just need to stall for time to keep the execution from happening. And they also talk about and kind of kid about how, they don't really want to kill any of the soldiers except for the prick who tried to rape them back in the last episode, that creepy Sergeant Zagel, who also seems to be out of his mind. He's not an Ashveni agent. He's just a crazy righteous prick is what he is. So unfortunately, the big moment has come. Oh, sorry. No, I am getting way ahead of myself here. My apologies. And so, Weaver actually meets with a number of soldiers that he and Wolf round up, and it turns out most of these guys are not in favor of executing fellow human beings, and they want to take the fight to the enemy. And Weaver convinces them that's what he and the rest of the Second Mass are doing. They were en route to Washington, D.C. to attack the Ashveni once and for all and win this war. And the soldiers are like, yeah, we're in. We've been dying for a chance to take it to the enemy, but first they've got to free the Second Mass. And so they kind of they try to talk it out, and Weaver's like, okay, in the meantime, just go about your business and we'll figure something out. But he's glad to know that he's got more people on his side now. More soldiers are on his side. And when Shelton is finally convinced to let Tom and his sons and Anne out of their cells to help them escape, he makes Tom promise that not a single soldier of the Virginia 14th will die. Tom promises. He's about to help them to escape when suddenly a voice says, "You're about to commit an act of treason." But fortunately, it's Wolf, and he's like, "How can you do it without my help?" And of course, Wolf and Shelton now help our main characters escape their bunks. But unfortunately, word gets out rather fast while Weaver's trying to have a conversation or a confrontation with Marshall. They get word of the prison break, and unfortunately, our main characters do not get very far. But when Tom, however, does manage to escape. He manages to escape, but before he does witness Shelton bravely try to stare down Marshall and confront her about how she's become unfit for duty and she needs to be relieved of duty and all duty should be turned over to Weaver. And he tries to make a point to the other soldiers like, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. We shouldn't be killing these people. And unfortunately, when he takes a step forward, somebody shoots him in the back, and it's crazy, and it's a crazy prick, Sergeant Cagle, who's immediately vocally trying to say out loud and justify himself, "He made an advancement toward the captain. I had no choice. I had to defend her. I did the right thing." And you can tell he's becoming unnerved, and he's already unhinged and just had a complete psychotic break as well. But, she dismisses it so casually. She's like, "Detail, get out Shelton's body out of here and put the prisoners back in their brig." And it looks like the execution is going forward as planned. Unfortunately, the morning has come. Anne, Hal, and Ben, and Wolf, who has now been considered a traitor in Marshall's eyes since he was caught trying to help them escape. The four of them are being hooded and lined up for execution while the execution squad walks out. And Weaver, stalling for time, tells Katie, you should probably, allow the prisoners to have a few final words before they're blown to bits, so it's just common courtesy. And he's just stalling for time, hoping somebody like Tom is going to show up and save the day. But, So Anne has a few words to say, and in fact, she's the only one who really talks, and she makes a point about how whether, if her death means victory for the second mass, and that these people will these soldiers will reconnect with their humanity and win this war, then so be it. Like, she's accepting it, even though she's clearly pissed about it, as they all should be, as they all are. And what's interesting is that right when you think somebody's going to make a dramatic entrance and save the day, they get ready, and the crazy Southern sergeant is like, aim! All the gunmen aim at the 4 prisoners, and when he yells fire, nothing happens. Because at first you might think to yourself, oh, there's going to be explosion, or somebody's going to take out the shooters and kill the gunmen before they can pull the trigger and execute our main characters. Nothing happens. Complete silence. And the rest of the second mass are watching from their cages, of course, and all the other soldiers are watching too, and Weaver's standing up on the balcony, command balcony, with Marshall. And he's not a prisoner, he's still a free man, because he keeps trying to talk her out of it. But, when the sergeant notices none of the men pull the trigger, he yells fire again, and then he starts to get irritated. He's like, I said fire, damn it! And it turns out all of the soldiers who were going to be the execution squad all look to Weaver with like a little nod, and these were all the guys he had met in the bunks in the previous scene with Wolf. These are the ones who are against Marshall. And so they stand down, basically, and right as they lower their weapons, that's when honking is heard, and a truck crashes through the main gate. Fortunately, not many shots are fired, but then Dingon and Matt suddenly appear, and a couple other members of the second mass with their rifles. Tom comes out of the truck, and he's basically making a case about how we confuse our enemies to be we think our enemies look like our friends, and how our friends look like our enemies. And he makes a good point with Cochise. He brought Cochise along with him, and of course the second mass are like, yeah! Because they're all cheering from behind the fences. And none of the soldiers are shooting, because Weaver and Wolf are telling the 14th Virginia, stand down, don't shoot, don't shoot. But of course, the crazy Sergeant Cagle is about to pull his pistol out to shoot Mason in the back, but fortunately, he's shot in the back by who's up there in the balcony? It's Maggie and Isabella. And fittingly, Isabella shoots him since he was about to rape her in the last episode. And she even says to Maggie, you're right, he was a diseased prick. Because Maggie made a comment earlier in the episode about what a diseased prick Cagle was and how he's better off dead. And she was right. And fortunately, he's the only soldier who turns his weapon on anybody in that scene, because all of the soldiers of the 14th Virginia are pretty much like, yeah, this is bullshit. These people aren't our enemies. They're on our side. And unfortunately, as Tom is distracted by trying to address and talk to everybody, Marshall starts to pull out her pistol, but Weaver, who was concealing a knife the whole time, a knife that he found earlier in the episode, stabs her like under the arm, but it's like through her heart, and he's like, I'm sorry, as he lowers her down to the ground to her death, and she starts spewing out this black ooze. It's not even human blood, it's black ooze, and all of her soldiers see this and like, damn, she's not even human? What the hell? Like, we were taking orders from whatever she is, and we was like, you're not Katie Marshall, are you? What are you, or who are you? And it turns out she's a freaking genetic experiment, a clone of Katie Marshall, the woman that Weaver once knew and loved. And it turns out she was acting as an Ashveni spy. Like, this was some kind of a scientific experiment for the Ashveni, is to have like a human-like, I don't want to say cyborg, but like an android, like a human android acting as one of their agents. And that is unfortunately what Katie was. And the most unfortunate thing is that Katie was actually dead. She's been dead all along. She was dead for quite a while, because Weaver asked the dying, not Katie android, hey, what happened to Katie? Are you really her? Did you do something to her, or is she really dead? Like, yeah, she's like, she died a while ago, but I am a trace of the woman who knew and loved you. And that kind of hurts Weaver. I'm like, God damn, the Ashveni are pricks. They really do know how to take everything from you. So no wonder they're such a hated enemy. And so fortunately, Marshall, or the Ashveni agent, is dead, along with the crazy sergeant, and the second mass reunites with their friends and families, and now the second mass allies himself with the 14th Virginia as they all declare they're going to Washington to march on D.C. Meanwhile, later on, Anne points out how Trevor, the man whose life she saved, her patient in the medical ward, had escaped during all the excitement, and nobody knew where knows where he went. And Tom kind of dismisses it, saying they've got bigger things to worry about. And so they're dismantling the base and getting ready to load up their vehicles, their convoy, the 2nd Mass and the 14th Virginia, to go to D.C. Unfortunately, Dingon and Cochise have managed to successfully retrieve the Ashveni communication device. And while they're trying to debate how it's still running or how it works, Ben realizes that with his spikes, he has a better chance, more than anybody, of actually lasting longer when he touches the device to see what the Overlord's plans are. And unfortunately, when he sticks his hand in there, despite everybody's protest, he starts to shake, and he sees what Weaver saw in the earlier episode, or a few episodes ago, is when he's hit with images of like a whole wave, like an entire army of Ashveni overlords, and it looks like they all bend down on their knees and they're all bowing before this unseen deity or this higher being. And that's when Ben snaps out of it, and he doesn't really get a glimpse as to any of their plans, but it looks like they're all bowing to something. And then Tom looks at Cochise, is like, is there something you're not telling us? And Cochise, who looks just as surprised and flabbergasted, is like, I didn't think it was possible. We thought it was merely a legend. So it makes you wonder, what didn't Cochise tell them? Like, why didn't he mention this higher being before, if there is a higher being or some god or deity that the Ashveni worship? Maybe this is the greater enemy that the Overlord referred to way back in season 4 when he first talked to Tom about it. How, the people of Earth and the Volm weren't ready for the greater evil that was coming. This might be that evil he was referring to. So we're not sure yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. Only 2 more episodes left, guys. 2 more episodes left in the 5th and final season of Falling Skies. And to top it all off, speaking of Trevor, he's out wandering in the woods and he hears some commotion, and then he turns and he finds himself held at gunpoint by Anthony. Anthony is back, which means that Pope is back. And sure enough, we see him half drunk overseeing this gladiator fight that's happening between 2 of his men. And it looks like they've rounded up quite a few survivors since the last time we saw them. A bunch of rough-looking, throat slicing, gut punching, rough-looking guys who are all cheering on this gladiator fight. One guy is wailing on the other, and then Pope tells him to finish him off, but the guy won't do it. So Pope throws him his pistol, and actually the guy who's on the ground, who's had the hell beaten out of him, catches the pistol and shoots the guy who had bloodied him up. And then Anthony brings Trevor before Pope. He's like, tell him what you told me. And Trevor's like, Tom Mason is alive. And Pope, with that crooked, crazy smile and his head turned, is like, nee. Well, he doesn't put up his thumbs, but he does have a crazy, oh yeah, kind of a smile. And that was it. That was the episode. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very dark, because we were talking about people executing other people when they're supposed to be at war with aliens. But this show does a good job of reminding you that people change during war. They change their allegiances, their loyalties, and some of them, like the crazy sergeant, the one who attempted to rape Maggie and Isabella, just snap. It overall just changes people in the most horrific and dramatic ways. And this episode did a great job of reminding us of that in the world of Falling Skies, humans aren't necessarily all on the same side. Everybody's got a different agenda and a different plan as to how to handle this crisis, this apocalypse, and if they're even interested on how to win this war. But everybody's back together, reunited, but now, unfortunately, of course, thanks to Trevor, he's going to lead him, Pope, and Anthony and their new little army on the Second Mass's trail. Is there any hope left for Pope or Anthony, or more specifically, Pope? Is Pope too far gone? Has he just gone down this path of darkness and there's no turning back? I honestly hope not, because I would love to see him carry out some kind of unbelievable act of redemption that either saves Tom's life or saves the lives of the Second Mass. And that might mean him dying or self-sacrificing. I'm seriously wondering if we're going to see him die, if not in next week's episode, the series finale. Now, of course, we'll probably lose a lot of main characters during the series finale, but out of all of them who might likely die next, I hate to say it, but I think it might be Pope. and he's become one of my favorite characters. Him, Cochise, and Weaver are like my top 3 favorites, and unfortunately we might see Pope go bye-bye in the next episode. So overall, great episode. It's really leading up to a very, very big series finale and showdown. I can't wait to see what this new deity or this new being is that the overlords are supposedly worshipping. And if this is the greater evil that they've been hinting at since season 4, we don't know, but we're going to find out. So overall, great episode. Really enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Thanks again for tuning in and watching another video here on the EdWord. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave your comments, thoughts, and opinions down below. Make sure you share and like and comment on this video. And stay tuned for more upcoming content, as I'll be doing more episode recaps and reviews for shows like Zoo and Scream as I catch up on those. And I'll let you guys know what I think of them and what I enjoy about them. And, of course, what Ghostface likes about Scream, as you all well know by this point. And, yeah, overall, thanks for tuning in and watching. And have a great rest of the night, everybody. And, of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.